Hello, I'm Rebecca Johnson, and this is my media presentation for English 112. I decided that I would use my topic from the literary analysis essay, and this section is called Speaking of Courage, which is from a book called The Things They Carried, written by Tim O'Brien. And what I decided to do for my project is make a game, and so I used Jeopardy Labs and I made a Jeopardy game relating to the project. So as you can see, I have 5 categories for our game. The first one is elements. I thought this one would be good to include because it just gives an overview of the important literary analysis elements. And then the next category that I made was characters, because I thought they were important to provide background information to the rest of the game, and they're also relevant to the story. And then I used key details because I also thought that they were important to understand the story better and know what's important. And then also just help with the overall understanding of the game. And then I did time during war because you'll find out that the main character from Speaking of Courage served in war, and that really changed him and who he is, and it had a major effect on him. So I thought that the things that happened to him during war were important to include as well. And then the last category is relevance of the setting. I did the literary analysis on the setting in Speaking of Courage because I thought that was important, and the author incorporated it in a way that helped the audience understand his purpose better. So I thought it was important to address that and then talk about the relevance of it and why it was important to the story. So if we start with the elements category and do elements for 100, it says, this literary element is the sequence of events that creates a story. So then when we flip it, it is what is plot as the answer. So then elements 200, the people or creatures who make up a story. What are characters? If we do elements for 300, then our question is the literary element in which the perspective a story is told from. We have what is point of view. And then elements for 400, the type of language that is used in stories and uses various figures of speech. The answer is what is figurative language. And then elements for 500, the place where a story occurs. What is setting? So now moving on to the characters category, we have for 100, the author of the book, The Things They Carried, and narrator of the story, who is Tim O'Brien. I thought he was important to include because he himself served in the war, and he was the narrator, so even though he might not specifically be mentioned, he still plays an essential role. So then next we have the main character of this story's father. Although he's never present in the story, he's mentioned multiple times and plays a large role. The answer is, who is Mr. Booker? Our main character refers to Mr. Booker a lot because he's his dad, and he really talks about how he just wants to make his dad proud. So I thought it was important to include him because it helps build more character for our main character. So then characters for 300, the soldier that the main character mentions from their time in war, who is Kiowa. He plays Kiowa, and Kiowa's story plays a vital role in our main character's life and how it affects him and changes him, so it was important to know who Kiowa was. Characters for 400, a girl the main character had a previous relationship with before heading off to war, who is Sally. Lastly, characters for 500, the main character of the story, who the story is mainly revolved around, who is Norman Bowker. So Norman Bowker is a main character, and he is who the story is about. So moving on to key details. For 100, the war that the main character, Norman Bowker, fought in, the place in which the story is set. What is the Vietnam War? The Vietnam War plays a major role in the story and how the war in itself affected Norman and his thinking and just his life even after war, so it's important to know that he served during this time. Key details for 200. This is what Norman's former girlfriend, Sally, is. That creates a sorrowful feeling inside of him. What is married? This shows how his life after war was changed, because before the war he had Sally, and then after she had moved on and married someone else. Key details for 300. What happened to Norman Baker's friend from war, Kiowa, on a mission during the war? What is drowned? Kiowa did drown while Norman was present, and you'll see that played a major effect on Norman, and just after he got home from war and how he grieved and how he dealt with that experience. For 400, we have the medal that Norman Bowker keeps referring to and repeating that he almost won it. What is the Silver Star for Valor? And then key details for 500, the main setting of the story that Norman Bowker keeps driving around plays a significant role in the story and is used as a symbol to help the author explain the purpose of the story. What is the lake? So the setting was the lake, and I related that to the different key details and characters, and why the author kept referencing the lake, and the significance in Norman when he kept driving around the lake. Time during war. 100, the group of soldiers that Norman Bowker and Kiowa were in during their time in war. What is platoon? For 200, when discussing his time in war, Norman Bowker stated, "It never stops blank in Vietnam." What is raining? The place Kiowa drowned in during the war. What is sewage field? So that's where he was in the sewage field from all the rain, and he did end up drowning, and Norman saw that. What Norman Bowker tried to do for Kiowa while he was stuck and drowning in the sewage field, but ultimately couldn't do. What is save him? Norman did try to save him, but unfortunately he couldn't do it, and so you'll see how that affected him throughout the story. The last one for time during war, the emotion that Norman Bowker carries with him after the war because he could not save Kiowa. What is guilt? You'll see as he drives around the lake how he keeps thinking about Kiowa and how he couldn't save him and how he feels really guilty about it. Relevance of the setting. So the relevance of the lake. The act of Norman Bowker repeatedly driving around the lake represents this. What is Bowker's mental state? I think the lake in him just driving around it, like going in circles, shows his mental state, because it shows how he keeps thinking about Kiowa and how he couldn't save him, and he's going around in circles in his mind too. And then for 200, we have continuously driving around the lake makes Bowker think of and reflect on his time during this. What is the war? What is the war? So as I just said, he keeps thinking about the war as he's driving around the lake. Relevance of the setting. 300, this is what Bowker notices a lot of within his hometown, but also in himself internally. What is change? As I previously mentioned, his former relationship, Sally, is married, and there's a bunch of different factors in his hometown that have changed since war, and then he himself has changed as a person as well. For 400, we have the lake is used to help get the point of the author's blank across. Purpose. And then lastly, relevance of the setting. 500, the author Tim O'Brien's purpose of the story was to show that war changes a person blank and blank. What is mentally and physically? So we have how Tim O'Brien, the author, used the lake to help kind of demonstrate his purpose and explain the point he was trying to get across. So this was my game. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you.